Ever wondered what happens after an anime never gets that second season that you so desperately wanted? Well, you may be in luck since I too am curious like that. In this new series titled What Happened To, I review what happens from the completed source material of these incomplete anime stories for those who have not or do not want to, giving my honest opinion of everything from it. The inaugural episode was dedicated to Darwin's Game, which in my opinion lost the plot as it went on, but was okay overall. So this specific video is what happened to High Rise Invasion. I remember it having a unique setting and premise with some decent action and shock value from the violence within it. It's an anime that I watched in its entirety when it aired on Netflix, and since learning that the manga is finished, I was at least decently curious as to how it ends. Since context is important for what I'm going to talk about, let's start with the anime's story summary. One day, a teenage girl named Yuri finds that she has been transported to a bizarre world with limited signs of life around her. She wants nothing more than to reunite with her brother Rika, who has also been teleported here. People are trapped in this realm atop high-rise buildings, which are connected to each other via bridges and with no way of safely reaching ground level. That is not their only problem, however, since people in masks hunt non-masked people to kill or encourage them to throw themselves off the building to their death to escape this insanity. The anime High Rise Invasion is filled with shock, desperation, action, and violence, as those who are sent here must do everything they can to survive in this battle royale-esque scenario. This realm's goal is to create God through a series of bizarre tests, but Yuri and Rika have other plans in mind. They agree that they should find a way to destroy this world by gathering allies, meeting up, and hijacking a helicopter, viewing it as a weakness of this realm, all while having to deal with bloodthirsty masks and others who are candidates for godhood. Who can they trust, and will they survive unscathed?
A high-rise invasion!
Yo, they said the title! So what's the accuracy of High Rise Invasion's anime to its source material? Let's give the adaptation a letter grade. The anime adapts 149 chapters in 12 episodes. Normally, that's alarming, indicating that many key moments got skipped, and the pacing is horrendous. However, most of this manga's chapters are only 15 or 16 pages long, which is extremely short compared to most things I've read, where at minimum a chapter is around 40 pages in length. I do think the pacing for this story is horrendous, especially later on, but the anime is faithful to the source in this capacity. There aren't really any major differences between High Rise Invasion's manga and its anime adaptation. Yes, there's a plethora of panty shots and fan service throughout, but those things also occur in the manga, and I'd say overall the anime actually tones that aspect down just a tad. Sure, some miscellaneous unimportant stuff is skipped, obviously for time purposes, and a couple of the fights are changed a bit, but the end result of everything is still the exact same. Overall, the anime does a pretty good job capturing the violence, shock, and desperation from its source. I don't like that the anime changed the fight at the beginning of episode 11 between Student Mask and Yuri. I prefer the manga's version substantially more, with Yuri being exhausted after fighting the other four masks, forcing her to be more tactical in this fight by stalling against him. The fight within the anime was also more comical in nature compared to its source, which I didn't care for either. Just like the other insignificant changes, this end result is still the same, with Mayako being Yuri's guardian angel, so it's not that big of a deal. There is a positive addition to the anime, which is this scene between Aikawa and Kusakabe, where he rests his head on her breast, and then afterwards the masks copy what he did to each other. The latter part doesn't happen in the manga, and I think that was a funny addition to the series, helping to lighten an otherwise serious narrative. Again, overall, these two changes are insignificant. The highest grade I'm willing to give for an anime adaptation, compared to its source, is an A+. High Rise Invasion doesn't get full credit, but it does get an A-, really only losing points on some minor changes to the events and the animation quality, which could have been better, but it is passable. I'll give the anime and the same content, which is 149 chapters of the manga, the exact same rating of a 4 out of 10. If you watched High Rise Invasion and want to continue with the story yourself, pick up the manga at chapter 149. So now, what happens after the events of the anime and the slightly over 100 chapters remaining? There are 3 major groups to remember, each having and being led by at least one candidate for godhood. Yuri's group, including Yuri and Kuon, Aikawa's group, and finally Yoshida's group. Yuri's group is who we follow mostly throughout the story, while Aikawa's group is the focus of the next arc. Yoshida's group has a minor role to play, helping out a bit after the events of the anime, but their role is bigger towards the end. Before I go any further, I should talk about how power is acquired in High Rise Invasion's realm. The masks help provide power, but that is not finite. Power in this world is linked to one's ambition, meaning how much does someone want something. A perfect way to explain this is by using the Great Angel as an example. In the normal world, he is a sickly child who wants nothing more than to have a strong body to help deliver justice. So, when he's teleported to this realm, this strong desire or ambition, combined with the powers the mask provides its users, he is given immense strength and is able to grow past his limitations. That same idea can be applied to Yuri, who wants nothing more than to be reunited with her brother and destroy this realm. Her strong feelings help her to accumulate power at an accelerated rate. By the end, she even has the ability to teleport around this realm, making her a threat to it and very strong because of it. There are 2 remaining arcs for High-Rise Invasion after the events of the anime. The first arc is dedicated to saving Yuri's brother, Rika, from Aikawa. Remember this guy, the villain that captured him? At the end of the anime, Aikawa flashes a code at Rika, and that's what we are left with. Well, this code forces Rika to become an apostle for Aikawa, aiding his candidacy for godhood. Becoming an apostle is essentially the same thing as wearing a mask, except with some slight differences. Apostles gain immense power, but do not need to wear a mask. They maintain their ability to talk and their personality, and cannot directly disobey their master. Yuri's group stages a massive attack against Aikawa's group, resulting in the deaths of many people, mainly those who are masked. During the giant skirmish, Kuon is killed by the White Feather Mask, but before dying, transfers her consciousness and powers to Sniper Mask. This now makes him both a mask and a god candidate, with Kuon residing in his mind. Thanks to that, Sniper Mask gains even more power and is able to keep up with Rika during their fight because of it. During the brawl, it is revealed that the 2 of them are actually brothers who were then adopted by 2 different families. This happened to help nurture their abilities and growth while not letting them become complacent, relying on each other. Essentially, their father wanted both of them to become stronger and reach their full potential. This means that Rika and Yuri are actually not related by blood, as he was adopted by her family. The other notable casualty occurring during this brawl is Aikawa, who is killed by the administrator of this realm, who overtakes Old Man Tanabe's body to do it. Before dying, Aikawa removes Rika's brainwashing from becoming an apostle. Personally, I think he did this because he wanted revenge against the man who killed him, the admin, and knows that Rika has the ability to pull that off. The final arc is a result of the giant battle between those 2 factions. The survivors must try to stop the administrator from breaking the rules by becoming God. Just like everybody else, the admin is a victim of this realm, being forced to help oversee the process of finding the perfect candidate to become God while still being overlooked for that position. However, during this process, the administrator has had enough and decides that he is the best candidate to become God, as he actively works against all other candidates. This undermines his boss's vision, an entity known as the Supervisor, who is using this realm to find somebody to become God, to help stabilize the boundary between worlds. If you're wondering, do they go more into depth on these other worlds and how to maintain this boundary, or even these important characters like the admin and supervisor? The answer is no. The lack of important details is prevalent throughout this narrative. There are some more fights, which, like in most of the manga, are decently entertaining, but nothing special. The final fight is between Yuri and the administrator, who uses Yoshida's body as a vessel, similar to how he used Tanabe's body to kill Aikawa. The admin is zero match for Yuri, who easily defeats him. Now let's talk about the series as a whole, starting with that garbage ending. The story abruptly ends with 0 solutions to the several loose ends left. This realm is now peaceful, since people are no longer being sent here, the fighting has ceased, and Yuri is the new admin, protecting this realm. However, nobody has become God. Everybody is still stuck in this world and trying their best to live normally until some type of solution to send everyone back is found. This is an unfinished, unsatisfactory ending, especially since it easily could have been wrapped up with Yuri becoming God and sending everyone who's alive back to the real world. No, that ending would not be good either, but at least it's finished, unlike the mess we are left with. High-Rise Invasion has a horrible ending that ultimately wastes its readers' time, since the story doesn't actually end. But you know what, I think this is fitting for a series that wasn't very good to begin with, and whose writing is poor. The initial concept of being stuck on high-rises with crazed masks with murderous intent sounds appealing, but that's all this series has going for it, that initial concept. When this story tries to add depth, it is just never enough. Occasionally there's an attempt at adding depth through a backstory or motivation, but those are short-lived and never developed enough. Those sections always felt like they are finished before they even started and were treated completely as an afterthought. High-Rise Invasion started off as a story about survival and trying to avoid these crazed masks, then transitioning to fighting with superpowers and super strength by the end. As the narrative progresses, any attempts at writing a respectable story are dropped as it becomes solely a fighting-focused story. It focuses solely on these fights, which are okay, but the story is very underdeveloped and underwhelming. This story goes completely downhill after Aikawa's death, as the rest of it is a speedrun to complete the story, which doesn't even have a true end. The story progression is a complete mess with zero visible planning. It throws in the occasional plot twist, such as the death of a character, or the introduction of the new strongest being in the realm, with absolutely zero build-up for them, as they appear completely out of thin air. These story elements have ridiculously poor execution, are not polished, nor are they thought out very well. I don't like the fact that whenever somebody is presented with a problem or a hurdle, the answer is immediately provided to them. Explanations for various story elements throughout High-Rise Invasion boil down to plot convenience to keep the story moving with its fast pace, benefiting the action, which helps retain its viewership but hurts the story even more. Don't know how something works? Their amnesia conveniently disappears as the character suddenly unlocks the knowledge, or it's told to them by a masked character. It's a system where powers are conveniently remembered or introduced when the plot demands it. Kuan is killed, but instead of actually killing her, let her transfer her consciousness to Sniper Mask and make her rather influential for the rest of the series as well, providing even more important information. Sidebar here, writers need to stop finding complex ways of keeping characters alive and just be willing to kill them off. There's absolutely no need for her to remain alive for the purposes of this story. There's a tough enemy coming up, give Yuri or Sniper Mask even more power out of nowhere to help them out. This could have been done differently if the necessary knowledge was found via codes in the world, similar to those on the back of the mask. That's even already a necessary component for godhood, the 3 god codes, so why stop it with that? Instead, the story chooses arbitrariness to help solve the major plot points to keep the story rolling. High-Rise Invasion's only strong point is the violence. The story is horrendous, so the fights need to be really good in order for this to be even mildly entertaining. Unfortunately, they never reach that level. I like some of the fights within the manga, but even they aren't executed very well, not lasting long enough, nor are they anything special. The characters are awful, bland, and boring, never being fleshed out, besides the occasional tidbits of info and flashbacks that don't last long enough to convey anything. The only 2 characters that possess some small amount of intrigue are Sniper Mask and the Great Angel. Sniper Mask legitimately aura farms the entire series. First of all, he's just a mysterious badass walking around with a sniper who smokes and takes out enemies throughout the story. His biggest aura farm is asking to be sniped in the head by White Feather Mask so that he dies in a cool way. He is most people's favorite character within the series and is the reason why you continue watching or reading, because the mystery surrounding him is the only part of the story that isn't horrible. The Great Angel is good solely because he destroys everything in his path while acting like a superhero. It's just the way he does it that is entertaining, and it helps that he's part of most of the good fights with tons of destruction within the manga. It also helps that he has a sympathetic, albeit a bit simplistic backstory. To summarize and end this video, High-Rise Invasion can be fine to consume if you just want to turn your brain off completely and enjoy the mindless violence, but mostly everything else with it is either bad, underwhelming, disappointing, or a mixture of those things. The pacing gets worse as it goes on, and it ends with a horrible cliffhanger that will make you angry with the entire series. I give High-Rise Invasion a 3 out of 10 overall, and do not recommend picking the manga up to finish the series, even if you thoroughly enjoyed the anime. Thanks so much for watching. Leave some recommendations for this series in the comments, and I'll add them to the ever-growing list. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.